Christianity is either of utmost importance if it is true, and if it's not, it's really of no importance at all. C.S. Lewis gives an argument about Jesus either being a liar, a lunatic, or Lord. And I think that's worth investigating because of what he claimed. If he is Lord, it changes everything. I was born and raised in Akron, Ohio. And yeah, it was awesome. Loved the town I grew up in, technically Bath, Ohio, and had two older brothers, lived in a neighborhood with a cul-de-sac, and just grew up playing. I remember freeze tag. The worst thing was being grounded, stuck up in my bedroom, just looking outside at the family and friends playing. So yeah, freshman year of high school, I think activities that I got plugged into that were kind of defining for me. I was class president, was on the soccer team, and that was a huge part of just who I was one of the couple freshmen that were a part of the varsity team. I think reputation in the end was a lot of what defined me. Was man, what do people think? So it's if I'm class president, people see me as a leader. If I'm on the soccer team, people see me as this all-star. And things I really loved, but I think skewed toward hey, what do others think of me? Everything I wanted to pursue was just fame and money and relationships. All those things just weren't what I actually felt made for, I guess. I went to Young Life Camp, and that was where I actually fully heard and understood the gospel. That was where I was yeah, I want to follow Jesus. I loved the ministry, and it was so fun. Loved the people that were involved. Had some leaders that really cared, and it's just that's where I really came alive of just freedom and knowing people that just had fun and were overjoyed with life rather than these things that we consume, whether that was awards or friendships. But then I think the motivation in following some of the Christian stuff was just hey, be a good person, which motivated me because people saw me as a good person. But also some of it was just this will be a good perk for my life of being a Christian, God having me on his team, I being on God's team, just seemed the right thing to do. So went into fall of college and really just struggled in my faith my freshman year. For the first time, doubted it. And that winter break was just dude, what do you think of your faith? What do you think of God? Is he legit? I remember buying the book, Did Jesus Exist? Because I was just did he exist? What am I putting my faith into? Had started partying a bit more, and relationships with girls came up again, where it's yeah, let's just find some immediate satisfaction. And it's I just felt this oh my gosh, my life is conflicting so heavily with what I believe, and not even just on a oh, Christians don't drink, party, or whatever, but it was in the deepest part of me, I was just I'm not lining up with myself. I think I finally felt this tension between relationship with Jesus and just the world. I think those were really defining times that year of just taking this faith that I had in high school, as well as this reputation that I fought so hard for in high school. And I think because of college, where you start thinking more critically and being challenged by the views of people around you, it's what is actually here and what are you living for? And I think God really was just leading me toward him and to surrender everything about my life to what he was doing. So that was, I think, a very defining moment of coming back sophomore year and being I want to live for Jesus. And so that kind of transformed, that was probably the most drastic change, and realized hey, you can know Jesus, but there's a difference between knowing him and really just giving up everything to follow him. And I remember one day walking by the desk of our dorm and overhearing somebody talking about a church off campus they went to, and I was hey, Abby, what church, blah, blah, blah. And they're yeah, actually this Bible study just got started. And I think God really just put the right people in the right place. And this guy, T-Rod, comes to Christ over the summer playing baseball. Corinne, she had come to Christ, wanted to start a girls' Bible study. And this guy, Christian, he wanted to live his faith out, but there's nobody alongside. And these guys on the hockey team, Chris and Kevin, were dude, let's start a Bible study. So all of a sudden, you got these people starting a Bible study. We started pressing into faith, and there's this core group of 8 of us or so that were we need to do something. And one Christian finding another, God just bringing us together and having a passion to a conviction to reach the campus, or at least give an opportunity. I think we all struggled in our faith, so it's what if there's other strugglers out there? And And through that, we're like, yeah, let's do Crew on campus just to have some recognition of an organization. But Crew is an international missionary organization that started back in 1951 with a heart to reach college students with the gospel. Campus didn't want Crew, so we started this group called SOAR 4031. And it took over a year before finally, like, the university allowed us to become a club. But that was kind of the birth of what we call SOAR. I guess their primary vision would be to be a caring community passionate about connecting students to Jesus on campus. For the first time in my life, seeing God do what God says he does in the Bible, not just like, oh, you go to church and become good, like start conforming to like, oh, I'm not going to do the bad stuff, I'll do the good stuff. But it was like people being like depressed and like meeting Christ through a friend and being like, yeah, I want that. I think just seeing, I mean, real people make real decisions to like sacrifice things for Jesus, but not just because like we thought in theory it was good, but because he really just started like changing us, and we're reading and learning and growing, and it's just like Jesus is worth it. When we talk about in like Christianity, like the old is gone, the new has come. You just, when you start to like grow in your relationship with Christ, you feel this like old self dying and this new self coming to life that's like, actually am beginning to want different things, and understood freedom for the first time, to like be freed from like others' opinions of me, and like freedom in Christ. What does that look like? Had some mentors that were just like willing to chase after Jesus and found that to be the truest, best life out there. And I was like, I want to feel that myself. It's like seeing Christ actually transform me, seeing Christ transform others. That's what is at the heart of ministry, at the heart of Crew, at the heart of SOAR, at the heart of all the individuals in it. It's like we don't do it for like the program or just desiring to have a bigger, better club on campus. It's like if not for Jesus doing something in my life, it's like I wouldn't have been a part of starting a club on campus. I wouldn't have been like desiring to go on staff. I wouldn't desire to continue on in the same direction of ministry. Life is so busy and there's so much going on that it's like if you don't know Jesus, I think it's often maybe you haven't just taken the time to consider who he was or what he's doing. And so I would just like encourage people to think about the harder questions. Like think about, man, what happens when I die? What is my purpose? What is like the point of people? Relationships and freedom are two things that it's just like you won't find the freedom that we're looking for apart from Jesus. And you can try to find freedom in all sorts of things, but like you won't be free from like the expectations of the world until like you're able to actually have a reason to surrender that like to something bigger. You know, it's like unless I have somebody telling me that I'm loved regardless, I'm always going to be constricted to the love of the people around me. And the second thing is just like with relationships, yeah, you don't have to go too far to look and see that it's just like people are craving deep relationships. Whether they seek that, especially on college campus, in like sex and just like surfacey relationships. It's like some of the most meaningful things in our life are relationships. And you could stop there, but I think the deeper reality is we're created for relationships. And when you look at the God of Christianity, it's like that is the only fulfillment of our deepest longings for relationship. If he is who he says he was, and there's like a reality of this world that is necessary to respond to and worth responding to.